Most of the arguments that are shown, whether they be in national papers or whether they be in industry papers, are good, solid arguments. It's losing momentum because it's not being listened to in a fashion that would make you believe that change is coming. And until such time as there's an indication from government that they are going to change, I think you'll find that they will continue to make good, solid arguments, as was going on in the room today. But in principle, government is succeeding in earning an awful lot of money out of that tax. It's happy that it's found a new tax, or should we say an increase on an old tax, that's successful in its revenue raising, and that's something that's very difficult, if you understand politics, to believe that politicians will want to change. I think the social consequences were the important point today, talking about the number of properties that they're not going to build as many as they were, and how many less affordable homes will be created because of it, talking about people who want to downsize or need to move because of their jobs or want to grow because of their families not being able to because of the tax side of those transactions being punitive. So there's a lot of sensible conversations about the negative side of what has occurred since Osborne's December 14 changes. But it's also difficult to stay away from the fact that we've had Brexit as well. So how do you balance that the problems that are occurring are solely Brexit as opposed to solely stamp duty, or a mix of both? And I think until we've finished the Brexit arguments and until we've got to a solution which everybody understands, we're going to find it very difficult to persuade government to change wholeheartedly back to the systems that occurred before, or dramatically from where they are. It would be good to see the Chancellor and the Treasury considering the effects and trying to find ways to amend the tax, whether it be by further reliefs or whether it be by adjustments of brackets, because there are obviously an awful lot of people who are not in a positive space over this particular tax, and it's not all revenue that's being earned by those people that are being affected selling. If anything, those people aren't selling, so they're not currently in the figures. And if they did sell and they had a better figure to sell to, you might see a turnover increase, and that might be more revenue. But you know, statistics are very difficult things, and for every economist that produces a document that states that if you were to reduce the taxes because of the Laffer curve, you'd sell more properties, and therefore that would lead you to turn over more money, and that would create a larger return for the revenue in the Treasury than it would do if you sold less properties. There's another person that will say, well, the Laffer curve may not apply here because of the global circumstances that are occurring, whether it be through Brexit, whether it be through the value of the pound, whether it be through the number of properties that are created demand-wise and supply-wise being structurally dramatically different to what it is required. So it's a complex equation, and I think what we're going to see is the social and economical effects of it regularly publicised. But until we can really focus on one being dramatically bad or hugely problematic, you may not see an enormous appetite from Hammond to change what it is that's been brought by his predecessor. And it's easy for Philip to say, well, I didn't bring it in, and it's very difficult for ministers to change taxes for a lesser level, particularly if it seems, shall we say, appearance-wise, to be to the benefit of wealthier people. So for the moment, it's a battle that will continue, and it's a battle that I think is important. And it was an interesting comment said by Granier, our fellow panellist, about how there's been a stagnation in the marketplace and there's been less confidence in investment because of this. And if you want to promote investment, people need to know that change is not coming. The status quo is important when you're making investment decisions. Moratoriums on tax changes, a sort of word that sounds awful but in reality isn't a bad thing, enables people to plan. If you know that tax isn't going to change over the next few years, then you can make a business investment without fear that 34 more tax changes will come in the next 4 years. And that isn't something that should be underestimated as having an effect. We need people to put money into UK PLC, particularly considering where we're going with Europe, and ultimately the returns that people get for that money are affected by the tax that they pay, and if they consider that more tax is coming and more changes are coming, they're less likely to invest in building new homes that we need than they would be if they could know that, well, what you've got is the playing field and it's not going to change. So I'm with Granier on that comment that we should try and keep the status quo for a while, and hopefully that might attract more people to do the right thing and construct homes, which is what we need.